All right, Hunter, welcome back. We are here on Tuesday to break down some of the big games of the day. We'll do more of a full podcast tomorrow, talk about some of the games from the weekend. Obviously, it was a great weekend of college basketball, but wanted to get on here quickly and touch on some of the big games today. There's three of them that kind of caught our eye here. The first one of those is Big East play getting underway. And this just kind of screams one of those Big East games that I think we're going to have all year. Marquette, number 5 in the VCI, traveling to Providence to play against Kim English and this new look Providence squad, number 46 in the VCI. And it's one of those games where we've been talking about how great Marquette is all season long, and they've looked good for the most part. This Providence team's been solid enough. They're 9-2 so far this year, but we get one of these lines -4 on Marquette, +4.5 on Providence, and an over/under of 146.5 to 147. And this is 100, like I said, just kind of jumps out as we're going to have these games all year. I think in Big East play, you get these good teams that are going to go on the road. We're going to get these 4 to 6 point spreads, and it's just going to be tough to figure out.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of these this year with UConn and Marquette being probably the favorites everywhere they go. And then Creighton, probably a pick 'em most places they go. And then you have this next set of the Providences, the Butlers, that are probably going to be 4.5, 5 point underdogs when the big dogs come to town. And there's just going to be super fun matchups. There's so many storylines. Like today, Tyler Kolek, a kid from Rhode Island, coming back home. He's yet to win at Providence in his career. This is his last opportunity. So, yeah, great storyline. It's going to be a great atmosphere in the dunk or whatever they call it now. It's changed names like so many times. But yeah, the Providence fans late start, they're going to be ready to rock.
Yeah, and this is like you said, it's not a rivalry per se, but just these games over the last couple of years. Last time Marquette came to town, almost this exact day last year. It was Tuesday, December 20th that they played in Providence, and that game was a double overtime thriller that Providence won. Year before that, when Marquette came to town, a 65-63 win for Providence. Of course, those being under Ed Cooley. We look at the stats in this one. As we said, Marquette number 5 in the VCI, Providence number 46. Neither team, both of those losses for Marquette, obviously being very much excusable. They've lost to Purdue and Wisconsin so far. We do have a common opponent here. Providence did play Wisconsin at home and actually thumped them.
Yeah.
So if you're a Providence fan, you got to like that. Providence losses also nothing to be too concerned about. They did lose to Oklahoma. We know how good that Oklahoma team is this year, and they did lose to Kansas State. You'd probably want them to win that one, but that was a close game down to the wire. It's this Providence defense that really jumps out to me as kind of jumping off the page statistically. Number 11 for us in effective defense. 2-point defense is awesome. They're 10th in the country there. They run teams off the 3-point line, and they make you play in isolation. That's a style of defense we've talked a reasonable amount this year that we like, and it matches up well with this Marquette team because Marquette shoots a lot of threes. They want to pass the ball around, and that's what Providence wants to take away, ranking 25th in 3-point attempts per field goal attempt and 8th in assists per field goal. So I think this Providence defense is kind of jumping off the page here. And then on the other side of the ball, an issue for Providence is going to be the turnovers. They're 324th. They're turning it over about 19% of their possessions. Marquette forcing turnovers on about 20% of the possessions. That's 38th in the country. And when you start to kind of say some of these things, both teams don't get to the free throw line either, and both teams don't foul. So we've got teams that there shouldn't be a ton of free throws in this one. I'm getting a little bit of a feel of under basketball as I list off some of these stats.
Yeah, I think a key for the game is going to be Providence taking care of the basketball because Marquette wants to get out and run. But Providence is at their best when they're getting back and getting their defense set, and that starts with not turning the ball over and giving Marquette those open floor opportunities. And with it being a home game, I trust them to take a little better care of the basketball. This does just feel like underball. First conference game of the year. Going to be Providence leaning on their defense, probably walking the ball up more, getting into their sets. Providence doesn't want this game running up and down the floor. They want this game possession by possession basketball, letting the crowd get behind them, putting that game pressure on the Golden Eagles. So I'm right there with you on the under 147.
Yeah, and we saw obviously Marquette struggled in that road game at Wisconsin. They did win at Illinois, which is a great win. That was a little bit earlier in the season. This over is actually creeped up too. We're able to get the under 147 now. It kind of started in the 145 range. So some people coming in on the over. I guess we'll take the other side of that. Both teams have been playing under basketball this year too. Marquette has gone over under in 7 of their 11 games. Providence in 8 of 10. Kind of speaking to their style of play, and they're going to play best when they do slow it down. The students, I assume this crowd's going to be great just because of the quality of game. But we also have the students off campus that might drum down some of the excitement a little bit. And again, we want teams walking the ball off the floor if we're going to be looking for under ball. So yeah, give me the under 147 in this one. Never fun to root for an under, especially against these quality of teams. But I guess that's the side we'll take here.
Yeah, you got to be strong to bet an under and watch the whole game, but it's the price we're willing to pay.
Exactly. And on a pace perspective, both these teams kind of middle of the road. But to your point, I think it's definitely the Providence advantage here if they can slow this game down, because if they get running and gunning Kolek running the show there, that's going to be trouble for Providence. And I will say, we're not taking a side here just because it is this first conference game, road game. Who really knows what's going to happen? But I think purely from how we think about these teams, if Marquette is who we think they are, a true Final Four contender, even a national championship contender, I think they need to win this game, and I think that they need to cover this spread for me to think that this Marquette team is basically to keep them at the level of confidence that I have for them going into Big East play.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow the lines for what UConn looks like on the road and what Marquette look like on the road, because if we're considering Marquette in that upper tier, like if this was UConn minus 4.5, I'd probably take UConn in this game at Providence. Yeah. So it'll be interesting just to monitor how Marquette performs in these games that are probably going to have pretty similar lines to UConn going on the road.
Absolutely. And that moves us to the next game of the day. This one's starting at 7 Eastern. I'm now out here in Seattle, so that is 4 o'clock Pacific time. Kind of nice. Get the games going a little bit earlier in the day out here, and also allows you to those Hawaii and those late games that pop up much easier to watch out here on the West Coast. But the next game is Virginia traveling to Memphis. Virginia number 26 in the VCI, Memphis number 34. The line here 3.5, plus 3.5 on Virginia, minus 3.5 on Memphis there. Over under in the 132.5, 133. Obviously, we know Virginia and we know under basketball for them, so not surprising to see that line. You looked it up. You texted me earlier. This is a blowout. Yep. The Memphis faithful will be there. They just took care of business against Clemson in a similar environment this weekend in a great game there. What are your thoughts on this one? A Memphis team that, I mean, you just look at the string of games they've played. They're just playing tough teams almost every time that they show up. And as of late, they're getting the job done with win over number 23 A&M and 22 Clemson back-to-back.
Yeah, Penny Hardaway's got the Tigers playing really good basketball. This is the best team he's had at Memphis. When FedEx Forum's right, FedEx Forum's a really tough place to go play a basketball game. It's a big arena, NBA arena. But when Memphis is filling it up, it's that blowout. So got to factor that in for sure. Yeah, Memphis is just playing great basketball right now. A really good test for them. And then this is Virginia's first true road game of the year. So we'll have to see how the Hoos perform. If I had to side Memphis in this one, I trust them to keep it rolling. I kind of like the over too. I kind of like Memphis to get out and run, and Memphis is going to give up some opportunities on the other end, but they want to play fast. And I just kind of at home, I trust them to speed up the game a little bit.
Yeah, and we look at these stats. I mean, it shows what you'd expect it to show. We've got a Virginia defense that ranks highly kind of across the board. The Memphis offense is solid enough. But what I like here for Memphis, beyond the fact that this is a home game for them, Virginia's first true road test of the year in an environment that's a difficult one to sign yourself up for. We saw that for Clemson a couple of days ago. Is I love these Memphis guards. I think they're really, really good. You got Quinterly, you got David Jones, you've got Walton's good, Caleb Mills. They've got all these kind of different sizes and different skill sets of guards, and they're going to play this 3-guard lineup a lot against this Virginia team. And we know Virginia is great at icing the ball, keeping you frozen on one side of the floor, making you play in isolation, and we see that in the numbers. They're 300 in 14th, or they're allowing a lot of assists because they force you to drive dish. You got to make things happen. I like this Memphis team to be able to make things happen. Basically, I think they've got these 3 guard sets that they can run. It's not the style of offense that Virginia comes up against a lot, so I think they can cause a little bit of havoc on the offensive end, and then you throw the crowd behind it. And I think there's enough here. Also, Virginia's been horrific from the free throw line this year, which is a concern for me, especially in a road game. You got to knock down your free throws on the road in this environment. So I'll take the Memphis 3.5 here. I like this Virginia team. Our boy Mike Popper on the Vinceric squad here. So we'll be rooting for Virginia. But from a betting perspective, I'll take Memphis 3.5 here. There's not a bunch of stats that I can point to here. I mean, the Virginia defense is great. This is really a vibes one. The home court advantage, first road test for Virginia. And I really like these Memphis guards.
Yeah, I really hope Memphis is wearing the Memphis State uniforms today. I think if they're in the Memphis State and the blue out, that might be too much for Virginia to overcome. But yeah, I trust Memphis at home. The Showtime Tigers, they like to get up and down, get the crowd behind them. It's going to be a rocking atmosphere. It's going to be tough for Virginia.
Yeah, and Virginia, we also have a common opponent here, Texas A&M. Both teams did beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M played a nice game against Houston this weekend, falling just short there. Virginia comes off. They had a very tough test, surprisingly, against Northeastern. They only won that game by 2. But yeah, I just think also this Memphis, you look at their numbers, their average win right now, 114. Virginia's a solid enough at 175, but this Memphis team is battle tested. They've played good teams all year. They're going to have the crowd behind them. So yeah, we'll take the Tigers here, -3.5. But this is a great game. This is you can see this as a Sweet 16 type of game, maybe a second round of the tournament. These are both obviously going to be tournament teams. And for both of them, especially Memphis, they've played this tough schedule, another chance to notch one more marquee victory before AAC play starts, where it's really just going to be them and FAU because the rest of the conference isn't very good. So a good a seeding game really for both of these teams.
Yeah, big opportunity for Memphis to just get another great win heading into conference play.
And last but not least, an interesting one here, number 38 in the VCI, the Florida Gators and Todd Golden against Michigan, who's number 50. Who's coaching for Michigan? Is Howard back?
Juwan Howard's back from the mystery. Well, some stuff's come out. I don't know if you saw the rumors, but it looked like one of the players talked back to an assistant coach, and then someone chirped up and said, like, that's why we have issues here, or like that's what's wrong with the culture. And then Juwan Howard had a medical issue, leave of absence. Then you had Jalen Rose coming out and saying everyone needs to stop. Juwan Howard's the head coach. So who knows what was going on, but the vibes feel off.
Yeah, they do feel a little bit off here for this one. This game being played in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Spectrum Center.
The Queen City.
Yeah, these teams getting together in North Carolina. The spread, Florida -3, Michigan +3.5, over under 157 to 158.5. They expect there to be some scoring tonight in this one, and I would agree with that. We look at these two teams, and both of them, for me, and the stats back this up, are kind of driven and ran by the point guard play. Two kind of shifty, fast guards. You've got Walter Clayton for Florida, who's been fantastic so far this year. And then you've got Doug McDaniel for Michigan. And they're kind of the engines that make these teams go.
Yeah, Walter Clayton transferring back home to be close to family. He was one of the biggest gets out of the transfer portal. He's looked amazing last time out against East Carolina. Close game, but Walter Clayton, that was no fault of his. He looked amazing. Florida's interesting. They got Riley Kugel in the wing. He's kind of hit or miss, but when he's on, he's really good. And then they have 4 bigs that they rotate through, and they're young, but they have 4 guys that go 6'10" to 7 feet that they really roll through, and they like to get out and run. On the other side, Michigan, they need a really good game from Doug McDaniel. He's far and away their best player. Yeah, I like Florida in this one. I don't know. The atmosphere is probably going to be pretty dead just playing in Charlotte. Yeah, I don't need to see what the gym looks like. Could be overball if it's got I don't know. It's going to come down to what the 3-point lines look like, though. If the NBA line's out there and the guys won't step back, that's underball. But if they got a clean court, that's overball.
Yeah, you texted me that this weekend. We were talking about, I don't know which game we were talking about, but you said how many lines are painted on the court. And I'd never thought about that before, but I'd love to see the statistics because your theory, you've got 2 theories now. One is that you take the road team in early games, or like the home team's not as fired up for the fans don't have enough time to drink before the early games,
Yep.
and then too many lines on the court. I like the lines on the court. That would make sense because you got guys
Yeah.
shooting from NBA range. The average distance of like attempts is probably a little bit further. So yeah, we'll need to see what's going on the hardwood out here. But this Michigan defense, problems for the Michigan defense here. 244th in the country in effective field goal percentage. Teams are shooting almost 50% effective field goal percentage against them. The 3-point defense, not good at all. The 2-point defense, not much better. They don't force any turnovers. They don't rebound. They're 226th in rebounding. That's where the bigs that you mentioned, these athletic bigs for Florida, are going to have a big advantage. Florida ranking 5th in the country in offensive rebounding. And I think that's for me. This Michigan team can score. There's no doubt about that. They're 14th in effective field goal percentage, but this isn't a complete Michigan team, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination. McDaniel can score for sure, but I'll take Clayton over McDaniel in the head-to-head guard matchup there. And then the rest of the roster, I'll take Florida for sure here, especially with the advantage that they're going to have on the glass. This should be domination on the glass for Florida on the offensive side of the ball. So I like the it's 3. Yeah, I like the -3 here on Florida neutral side. I think this Florida team's solid enough. 7-3 on the year. Haven't suffered any really bad losses. They lost to Wake Forest. They kind of blew that one. They probably should have won there. But this Michigan team, their best win right now is they really don't even have something that I would consider like a hat tip best win. So I think Florida's the better team here. I'll take the -3, but should be a nice game to watch, an up and down style of play.
Yeah, and a sneaky important measuring stick game. Like there's been a lot of talk about Florida that this team's gonna, could make a second weekend tournament run. If they're gonna be a good team and they're gonna get into the dance, this is a game that they need, and they need to look impressive because again, they got the win over East Carolina last time out, but they just did not look good. They've got a lot of hype behind them. They did really well in the transfer portal. So look for Florida to come out and take control of the game here and cover that -3.
Yep, I agree with you. So for today's marquee games, I guess in order of time, 2 of them at 7 and then the other one at 8:30. Memphis -3.5 for me. Florida -3. So we'll take the favorites there. And then we'll look for some underball up there in Rhode Island, the under 147 between Providence and Marquette. But 3 just nice games for a Tuesday slate, all intriguing. And then we've got a great slate of games tomorrow, which we will be back to talk about all sorts of good games. Baylor, Duke, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Alabama, Arizona. I mean, and then Big East play as well. Some marquee games there. Villanova, Creighton, a nice little early test. So things are starting to heat up. We'll have a few good games the rest of this week. Then we'll have a little bit of a dead period around Christmas. And then obviously things heat up into the new year. So Hunter, excited for today's games and excited for the rest of the week.
Yeah, looking forward to them. Let's go 3-0.
Awesome. Talk to you later.